Welcome to the Membership Guys podcast. Kick-ass advice and tips for membership site owners.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 221 of the Membership Guys podcast. I'm your host, Mike Morrison, and today I'm joined by none other than Callie Willows, the other half of the Membership Guys, for the second part of our look back at our very first live event, Retain Live 2019. I'm looking forward to talking about the event itself. In the last episode, we talked all about the prep and the build-up, but we left off pretty much the day before the actual event started coming together.
Yeah, and it took a turn.
It did take a turn. Yeah.
For the better, fortunately.
Yeah, so if you haven't listened to the first part of our Retain Live debrief, I'd encourage you to listen to that first. So jump back to the previous episode on your podcast player or head to themembershipguys.com/220 to listen to that first part, because the build-up took us to a place where kind of a day before everything kicked off with the event, we were in a bit of a dark place.
I was going to say, it took us to a dark place. It took us to some sleepless nights, some stress, some anxiety. Well, anxiety for me anyway. And yeah, we weren't looking forward to this, really.
We were just waiting to get it over and done with. We were so burned out. So, fortunately, if you followed us on social or you were at the event, you'll know that it did take a turn. And when Tuesday came, so the event ran Tuesday, well, technically the two main days of the event were Wednesday and Thursday. They were the days where we had speakers and all of that. But we had decided to do an early registration the evening of the Tuesday. Just, I think, for logistical reasons, to get to get as many people set up with their badges and ready as possible before the real main event started, because the last thing you want is people queuing out of the door at 8 a.m. and you're kind of wanting to start the event. So we did a little pre-registration mixer where we got some free drinks for people, and we kind of tied that into them registering and getting their name badges and their swag bags and all that sort of stuff. And so technically, well, it was a 2-day event, but really it was a 3-day event. But we had access to the venue, to the main foyer and everything like that for the entirety of that day.
Yeah, for the Tuesday, we'd paid extra to actually hire the room for that entire day as well. So normally with an event, you would normally get access to the room the evening before, often not till 1 a.m. in order to set up. So we actually made the decision that we wanted to pay a significant chunk extra, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap.
To hire the room for that entire Tuesday as well, so that we had plenty of time to set up. We knew there was a lot of different bits and pieces that we were going to be doing with the space. It was quite a big space.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted plenty of time for the AV and stuff to be set up, for everything to be tested, and to run this pre-registration and welcome drinks. And that was money really well spent. I can honestly say, if you can hire the event space the day before, yes, it costs more money, but it gives you so much more freedom in terms of the setup. It's so much easier. If we'd been setting up at 1 a.m. in the morning, or heaven forbid, AV had been setting up at 1 a.m. in the morning and we didn't see it till the morning, 20 minutes before the event started, then that would have been way more stressful.
Yeah, it really would have been. In fact, the first venue we looked at for Retain Live, one of the issues, and one of what turned out to be many issues, was the fact that they didn't want to let us into the room until 1 a.m. And while AV companies can do that, we didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And we didn't want an AV crew who were tired from having to set up at crazy hours in the morning. So that was definitely a good decision. So that day there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of ferrying, all the printed stuff, all the things for the swag bags, the sponsor giveaways. We had some cool little things our sponsors sent us for the swag bags. So there was a lot of ferrying backwards and forwards between our house, which is about 20 minutes away from the venue, and the venue itself. And so having access for the full day just made it easier rather than trying to slot that in to, a 1 hour window or something like that. So I think actually all of that type of stuff, all of the setup and starting to see things coming together, seeing the stage being built, which it was mostly built by the time we got there because the AV crew had been there from like 7 a.m. And this was a really big, cool, impressive stage
It was,
as well.
yeah. Yeah, I think Mike was always quite insistent on wanting the stage to be
A wow factor.
Yeah. Which I didn't disagree with, but I very much left the stage to you. I knew you had visions for what you wanted, so I kind of left that to you to a large extent.
Exactly, and the AV company we worked with, they're the best in the region. They do most of their work outside of the Northeast. In fact, they're so in demand, and we knew that there was some local companies that were more about the small scale events. They could put together a cute little staging area, but we wanted something that showed that we meant business, right?
Yeah, we wanted to make a statement.
Yeah, we wanted to make that big impression. We wanted people taking photos of it, for it to look great in all of the professional photos, because we had professional photographers there. We obviously were getting the event recorded, so every session was filmed. We wanted to make sure that our speakers looked great, the backdrop looked great, and it didn't look like we were just in a dusty hotel room. So again, just giving the AV team the ability to come in at their leisure and set up without any time pressures. It meant the staging was set up it was about midday to 1 p.m. It was done, really, the stage.
Yeah, and then it became about the sound checks and stuff. And it was really lucky we had the extra time because we actually had some issues with some of the PowerPoints and things like that. So it gave plenty of time to sort some issues out and test things.
Definitely, because when you've got guest speakers and they're all preparing their own presentations and sending it over, then even if you can give them every instruction on making sure there's no potential issues with fonts or animations or this, that, and the other, there'll always be one or two little things creep in. So we had a few things crop up, and the fact that actually our AV team were pretty much just free and available for the whole of that afternoon, because all of the heavy lifting of their job was done by the time midday came around. That meant we were able to work through those. It meant we were able to let our speakers come and see the stage early and get up on the stage, get a feel for the space, run through any questions they had with the AV team, and correct any issues. I think one or two speakers just wanted to rejig the order of their slides. And so that was, while that was all going on, we also had our event management team, the guys from Beacon House. They were there, like getting the signage all put up and positioned, getting the name badges ready. As I was going back and forth to the house, ferrying some boxes around, you and that team and Sam and Laura from our team, they were like stuffing the swag bags, like 200 swag bags. Folding t-shirts, like all of that sort of stuff. And and I think that did two things, because that night before, we were just done. Like, we had it in our heads that, you know what, we'll get this out of the way. We just need to get to the end of the week and it'll all be over. Like, we were so burned. But what that Tuesday did is it allowed us, I think, to distract ourselves from those kind of thoughts, because one, you're starting to actually see things coming together.
Yeah, I think for me, because I was there all day essentially once we got there, whereas you were going back and forth. So I was kind of there seeing everything come together and seeing how good everything looked and starting to get excited at, actually we've done this. This is something we've put together and it's going to be awesome. And then, we did have some attendees dropping in to stick their head in and say hello, which on the one hand was lovely because it was really nice to meet some people in advance and things. But at the same time, I was very conscious of the fact that I was in very casual clothes, not really wearing any makeup, and looking a bit of a mess.
Yeah, and we'd both been loading up the van and stuff earlier, so we were both a little disheveled and hot and sweaty.
It was probably not the best first impression I could have had on some of our attendees who popped their head in, but bless them, none of them seemed to mind. Yeah. And it was good, getting to work with the event team and starting to really feel like, actually, this is all coming together, and relaxing into it a little bit, because I think at that point I was kind of like, you know what, this is all happening. I might as well enjoy it. There's no point stressing. There's no point being anxious. There's absolutely nothing else we can do at this point. So let's just lean into it and enjoy it. Yeah,
and I think part of the issue that I think led to us starting to get real burned out is that it was quite an isolated process, us preparing for the event. because one, we're all about that instant gratification. We don't do well with delayed gratification. So it just seems like you're doing all this work for no payoff. And then obviously when the Tuesday came, we start to see the payoff starting to creep in, starting to happen. Then it's like, oh, wow, yeah, actually, this is why we worked so hard. Like all that design work that we did. Oh, this is the actual result. Because again, like even when we were designing all sorts of stuff or ordering swag and stuff, most of the time when they were coming, they were just packed away in the boxes, like the banners and the signage and all that. You're not actually getting the full effect of it. So I think the other thing that happened on the Tuesday was the realization that we weren't just doing this on our own.
Yeah.
We had fantastic teams on the event management side. We had our own team TMG, on hand. We had an amazing AV company. We had great venue staff, and you kind of almost forget that and lose sight of that when it's just the two of you working from home, getting everything ready yourselves. When we got there and we saw how much had happened without us needing to be there, it made us remember, all right, yeah, this is why we brought on these pros, and actually this is going to make the next few days a lot easier because we've got people in place who are going to make things happen and who are going to do all the heavy lifting and take care of problems and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think as we hit the afternoon on the Tuesday, I think we were both feeling a little bit of a bounce up from hitting that kind of burnout point the previous weekend.
Yeah, I was definitely moving into too excited. Still nervous because for me, especially the speaking, I was very nervous about because that was completely new to me. And, you know, we were starting off the event on the Wednesday with a keynote that the two of us were doing together. And again, that was new for you as well because we've never done something together like that. You're used to speaking, but it was very new for you to kind of share the stage.
Yeah, and my whole process and my whole approach to speaking is a one that's not particularly conducive to a double act. So it was a learning curve for me as well. And yeah, you know, that was going to be a challenge for us. And we didn't get a chance to rehearse on that Tuesday, did we?
No, we planned to, but we just had so much going on. We thought we'd take a little time out and things, but then we ended up with about an hour before the pre-registration where we went up to our hotel room because we were staying at the hotel. And, you know, we thought, should we do a run through the talk? But actually, we just need to sit down, catch our breath, get changed, and just relax for a little bit.
Yeah, before for 30 minutes.
Before the pre-registration started.
Yeah.
You know, I think the biggest stress that day was we had an issue with our speakers' gifts where until about an hour before they were due to be delivered to our speakers, we didn't know if they were going to be there.
No, we didn't. You know, we got customized bobbleheads of each of our speakers, which is something I wanted to do just for us two for a while, to have a customized Mike and Callie bobblehead, but it always felt a little OTT, a little egocentric, but the fact we were putting on this event gave a good excuse to do that. So we got custom-made bubbles for all of the speakers with them wearing a t-shirt with the Retain branding, but they turned up without the Retain logo on, and I think they arrived without them on the Friday before the event, which left us no time to go back to the suppliers and get them to do it. So there was a scramble. Our event team were helping us in sourcing these. There was a scramble with our event team to get a local kind of hand painting specialist who hand paints models to literally hand paint on the logo onto all the t-shirts, but they had to drag the poor guy in on his day off to do that, and that meant that we didn't get those speakers gifts until an hour before they had to be given out to the speakers. So it's a silly little thing, but I think especially when you're starting to see everything come together and realize, okay, all these pieces are slotting into place, knowing that there's still one big piece out there, there's still one thing, and what we really wanted to make sure we got these gifts in the hands of the speakers, because we wanted them to think, wow, this is so cool. I'm going to pull out my phone, take a photo, put it on social media. And obviously these speakers all have big audiences of their own. That's more exposure for us and all that. So it wasn't just an ego thing or a this is really cool thing. It was actually a tactical exposure thing for us to get these gifts to speakers. So it was a little, you in particular were getting more and more like...
I was getting very anxious mainly because I didn't know what was happening. because the event team were handling it, we didn't necessarily know what was happening and things. And so I was getting more anxious about the fact that it wasn't something I was in control of.
And I think if you listen to the past episode, we've definitely realised throughout this process,
we're a little bit control freaks.
Yeah, we are control freaks. We're accustomed to knowing absolutely everything that's going on and having a huge degree of control over everything that's happening. So yeah, but if that was kind of the biggest stressor, the worst thing on the Tuesday, which I think is pretty good going when that's the biggest thing we've had to worry about, other than obviously nerves about various aspects of the next day. I think we did pretty well.
Yeah. I think that day I definitely leaned more into the excitement, enjoyment, just looking forward to it.
Yeah, and all along, our AV team, event team, venue team had kept telling us, like, generally we've not worked with people who are as well organised and as on it as you guys, especially considering it was our first event. But you half don't believe them.
Yeah, and then I think it was funny because people so we ran it in the Hilton Newcastle Gateshead, and people from the event team kept coming down to have a look around and stuff like that, and being told like, oh, I've been told that this is like one of the best, like most well designed kind of laid out things. So I just wanted to come and have a look. So at that point, I was kind of like, okay, so maybe we've done good.
Yeah, maybe we've done good, and but again, you don't know what you don't know what you don't know, and until you see it come together, even comparing to past events that you've seen other people doing, you don't know how you're going to measure up until all the pieces are on the board and it started. So yeah, big setup day on that Tuesday. We had the opening reception, the early registration mixer, and that was I think the big thing that turned it for us. We'd start to kind of lose some of that woe is us kind of cloud that we've been under for a few days, but it really cleared away when we went down to that the early registration.
Yeah, and I think it was funny because we were up in our room getting ready, and we kind of were leaving it about 10 minutes after the pre-registration started to go down.
Make a fashionably late entrance.
And I have to admit, I was procrastinating a bit and faffing around because I was really nervous about going down, because I was terrified about going down and there not being anyone there.
Yeah.
And it just being like a tumbleweed and stuff. And so I was kind of had that in my mind, sort of like, well, what if we go down and just nobody's turned up?
Yeah, because the thing is, it was never pushed as a big part of the event. It was a convenience thing. Early registration, come along, get your badge, get all of your stuff out of the way. It was a 2-hour window, and we knew a lot of people wouldn't be arriving till the next day, especially because British Airways, big shout out to British Airways. They had the single largest strike amongst their pilots in history on the Monday before our event, which meant we knew that there was attendees who'd had to change their travel plans. And so this all contributed to us being completely in the dark as to whether anyone would actually come along to the early registration.
Yeah. And we'd arranged welcome drinks, so we'd paid for welcome drinks and things so that people could just basically come in, get to meet other members, other attendees rather, in advance, break the ice a little bit so that things would be a bit more relaxed. So we had kind of like when we went up, all the glasses and things were laid out for the drinks, and all of the stuff was laid out for the pre-registration. There was T-shirts, swag bags, name badges, but it was that thing of, oh, what if nobody just turns up to this?
We go downstairs and there's like 2 people there because everyone's decided they're just going to come tomorrow morning. So we stepped out the elevator, and the way that the venue was laid out is you literally came out the elevator into the main hotel lobby, and you took a right, and it was pretty close to those elevators that you went through a set of doors into the private foyer area for the event. So this is all to say you hear the buzz the second you come out the elevator. So it was like that movie moment where the elevator doors part, and then in a split second later you register the fact that,
that sounds like there's people.
That sounds like there's people there. That sounds like it's people. But even then, until you round the corner and see them, you're still kind of like, well, it might just be some people outside being a bit noisy waiting for a taxi or something. Then we rounded the corner, and actually we saw There was a lot of people there.
Yeah, there was a lot of people already inside. There was a big queue, which we ended up joining because...
Yeah, because we spotted a few people we knew, Martin and Lindsay from Jammy Digital, so we joined the queue for registration at our own event to have a little chat. And then we made our way into the main area, and it was buzzing. It was really, really buzzing, and I think that was the moment we realised. And we remembered, not even realised, we remembered why we were doing this, because people, in the space of 10, 15 minutes, they connected, they were smiling, they were laughing, they were having fun. They all seemed to have a drink in their hand. Yeah. So the team were real efficient at getting drinks into people's hands. And that little magic feeling in the air that we knew when we decided to do this was going to be a pretty special thing. Yeah. Coming from just bringing together all of these membership owners into one space, we saw it, we felt it, and almost in an instant, I don't know if it's the same for you, we were like, yeah, this is why we're doing it. This is awesome.
Yeah, I think for me, especially you never know when you're bringing together a wide range of people. And we have a very diverse audience in terms of topics, types of membership sites, all kind of things. We had a very diverse range of attendees. So you never know if that's going to lead to things being a little bit awkward and stilted when it comes to social things, or whether people are just going to dive in. And I loved that we went in there and everybody was already in groups, chatting away, having fun, just socializing. There was nobody stood awkwardly and things like that. And, it just seemed like, this is a really good crew that we've brought together here. These people are here to enjoy themselves, to learn stuff, but most importantly, to connect with each other as well, which was what I really wanted.
Definitely. And, we arranged various elements of the event specifically with that in mind, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So we got to hang out with those guys for about an hour before we had to run off with our speakers to treat them to a little slap-up meal, because we're all about treating our speakers well. Again, I think we said in the last episode, some events, almost the organisers almost have a mindset that you should be grateful to be on that stage. We're not like that. We recognise just how much value that our speakers would bring to our audience. And also, we ask quite a lot of our speakers because, with the exception of one, and that was a speaker where
two technically.
Yeah, with the exception of one speaking act, where we just said, listen, do what you normally do because that it's awesome. But everyone else, they created talks specifically for our event. Most of the time you get speakers, these are all speakers who are pros, they're on the circuit, they speak at a lot of events. Normally, a speaker will have 2 or 3 talks that they deliver at every event. Maybe they'll tailor it a little bit, but we asked them to do so much more than that. We asked them to write brand new talks just for this event, because we knew that there'd be overlap.
And also it was a specialist topic.
It's a specialist topic, yeah. So there's a specialist topic. So we knew that some of the stuff that people regularly talked about just wouldn't work for us. So we outright said, can you talk about this specific thing, knowing that it would mean they had to write a talk from scratch? And also, there's more and more events within just the online business space and the online marketing space taking place in the UK, and we knew that there's overlap amongst our audiences, so we didn't want for our attendees to say, and for every single speaker think, well, I've seen them say this 5 or 6 times now. So we were asking a lot, so we treated them well. And one of the ways we did that, we took them out for a lovely slap-up meal. I have to admit, I lost track of remembering that we're not attendees, we're not speakers. So while our speakers were enjoying the free-flowing wine and all that sort of stuff, we had to behave and constrain ourselves a little bit. And that's something we had to keep reminding ourselves throughout the event. We can't stand gassing on and gossiping on during the breaks all the time, because we've got to protect our throat. We can't stay out at the social until midnight doing karaoke, because we've got to be up early the next day. So we had to be a lot more responsible than I thought we'd have to be at this event.
And I think that was actually one of the hardest things for me was getting out of that attendee mindset and into that mindset of actually needing to be on all the time, because that is a very different thing.
And that's tiring.
That's tiring.
That's tiring, being on, being in not performance mode, because you're not putting on an act, but being, honestly, for a lot of people, a central attraction.
It's very different. And knowing that, like, for me in particular, I wanted to talk to everybody. I wanted to spend as much time with people as I can. I wanted to experience the event.
Yeah.
But then, I think you repeatedly had to say to me, you've got to protect your throat. You can't keep doing that.
You've got to protect your voice. If you're in a big group with 100 people and everyone's talking loud, you tend to talk over them. We can't do that because we've also got to be up on stage talking for the whole of the 2 days. And so many times I had to say to you, like, just remind you, like, get lunch plated up for you beforehand, go off somewhere private and eat it, because we can't be standing in the queue for lunch with everybody else. So, and we need to be finished by, if everyone's coming back in the room at 11, we need to have our stuff ready by this time, and that means we can't stand with a coffee chatting away. So that was an adjustment that I think I was probably a little more equipped for, because as a speaker at other people's events, you also have to be mindful of, taking care of your throat, making sure you're not straining yourself, making sure you're not overdoing it, and all of that. Yeah,
and I think it was particularly difficult because when people approached us at the event and said, this has been a really good event and things, how have you done that? Like, quite honestly, the reason we did the event the way we did and all the little things that we did was because we basically sat down and said, what kind of event would we want to go to?
Yes.
And so we designed the event entirely selfishly as to, if we were an attendee, what would we want? How would we want this to go? Mm-hmm. And so, we designed it entirely to want to enjoy it ourselves.
Yeah. And so then remembering that, but we don't get to.
We have to actually work.
Yeah, we're working here. So, so we had a great dinner with the speakers and everyone went off and we went back to the room. A little bit of prep work after we got back. So we had to divvy up who was saying what on the next day, because there were a few times where we shared the stage. And then what followed was a very sleepless night.
Yeah, neither of us slept that night, really.
And it wasn't, for me, I don't know about you, it wasn't anxiety or nerves or stress or anything like that. I think it was just the buzz from the day. It was just
adrenaline.
It was just adrenaline, because it had actually, it had been quite an exciting night, and we knew we were on the cusp of it becoming even more exciting. So I wasn't nervous. I wasn't tossing and turning, worrying. I was wide awake, and I think we both were till 3 or 4 in the morning at least. So that made it interesting the next day.
Seeing as we hadn't slept that much in the week beforehand anyway, I think by this point, we were pretty much just running on adrenaline.
Yes, and we were drinking less coffee as well on the day, because we didn't want that kind of caffeine crash and stuff. So that next morning was certainly interesting. Honestly, my one regret from the event is not being on the other side of the curtain, or the other side of the stage, when we had the whole intro video and light show. Again, we wanted to get people's attention and have something that made a bit of a statement in terms of the reaction that it generated. So we put together a cool little intro video. Our AV team, we worked with them on a cool light show. We had Mark Asquith as the voice of God, which was a role that he was happy to take, introducing us on stage with a big fanfare. But we were hidden in the wings, weren't we? We were hiding behind the stage. And I was bopping away to the music, I just want to peek out and look at it. And then we stepped out, and our people were there.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I thought I would be far more nervous for the opening and the keynote than I ended up being, because, I've mentioned already, this was my first time properly speaking. It was my first time being on stage. It was my first time being mic'd up. Yeah. It was my first time doing all of this, but I was expecting to be really nervous, because it's not my comfort zone at all. But actually, I think what the night before had done was it had made me realize that, these are our people here. These are people who want to see us succeed. They're here because they already, for the majority of them anyway, they already have a relationship with us of one degree or another. They're not here wanting us to fail.
Yeah.
And it was that realization that actually this is a room of there's a lot of love in the room.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, in sports terms, you're playing in front of a home crowd.
Yeah, so for me, that got rid of a lot of the nerves because actually, these are people that I like and know, as opposed to a cold audience at somebody else's event.
That's the thing. When you're speaking at someone else's event, they're not your people. You might have some of your people in the crowd, but a lot of them don't know who you are. They don't know why you're on stage. You have to almost convince them that you're someone to be listened to. Whereas with this, it was a totally different kettle of fish. So after a little bit of preamble, opening keynote came. I think we smashed it.
Yeah, I have to say, I was nervous, but nowhere near as nervous as I thought I would be, and I did a much better job than I expected I would do.
You did a great job, and no one, the thing when you do a talk is nobody knows, unless it's real obvious, people won't know if you missed a bit or messed up your lines or did something out of order, but we know, and we know that you were pretty much not perfect. I was messing up all over the place, and I'm the quote-unquote pro speaker. It was me who kept fluffing certain lines or saying things totally differently to how we'd been rehearsing them for weeks. You were the pro. You were carrying me for half of it.
I have to admit, I feel quite proud of how I did for the speaking front. I feel like I was quite awkward physically, not sure what to do with myself on stage and things, especially when you were talking and stuff like that.
I'm a bit more animated with that anyway. Yeah. I'm a big. I talk with my hands and I pace a lot.
And I did realise about halfway through we'd made an error by just putting one table of water, so I'd have to walk behind you for that. Which Andrew and Pete helpfully told me afterwards. Yeah, you should have one both sides.
But little
things
details,
like that, but tiny little details like that, where I'm like, oh, I could have done that better. But actually, I was quite proud of myself for how I did that, to be honest.
Yeah, I was real proud of you. I thought we knocked it out of the park, and it was good to get that out of the way first because we were doing more speaking.
Yeah.
Not only we were emceeing the event as well, and it was real important that we did because so much of our brand, so much of the way in which we show up for our audience is very much about us being there, us being present, us being hands-on. And so to have some random person introducing the speakers and trying to string everything together just wouldn't work. And we had a few things that we knew we were announcing and a few special things that, again, just wouldn't work if there was an MC. But on top of that, we were hosting, so you hosted 2 panels, I hosted 1 panel, and we both did 2 mini talks each. So these we called them quick win sessions, which again, it ties into something in the membership academy with our quick win training there. And they were kind of real, heavily tactical, very membership specific 15-minute segments. So we each had 2 of those as well. So we had a lot to do, but eating the big frog, getting the big thing, the big nerve-wracking thing of the keynote, because all the other stuff, we could have cards with us on stage to read prompts from. The keynote, you can't do that. You can't stand up and deliver a keynote talk and be reading from a card. So I think because we'd considered whether we would close the whole event as the closing keynote. But I think we made the right call in being the opening keynote because that made what came after, for us, so much more relaxed and so much less stressful.
Yeah, and I think it did a good job of setting the tone of the event for attendees as well.
And we set up a lot of the speakers.
Yeah, so we needed to do that opening keynote. And I think, again, for me, being able to kind of have that first experience with you alongside me as opposed to standing up there on my own, definitely made it a lot easier for me to get acclimatized with what was happening and know you were there, that if I did mess up or if I forgot something, you were there to back me up.
That's the great thing, because as much as working as a double act adds a few wrinkles into the preparation and into how you structure a talk, knowing you have someone on the other side of the room that you can just give a look to kind of telepathically say, okay, I'm lost. Just say one line. And that happened a couple of times. But yeah, that was great. So I think we What are you laughing at?
I was just laughing at it, saying, you could tell I'd totally leaned into it and got comfortable by the end of the event when I was giving you quite a bit of sass by accident.
You were giving me a lot. You were throwing barbs my way. There was at one point, I think the biggest laugh of the whole event was me saying I was going to do something, and you said it was about time you did some work or something like that. And people laughed at that too much. There was too much laughter at that. I don't know what to be offended, but you really settled into it. So yeah, I think it was such a great way of starting the day. The rest of the day, again, went without a hitch. It was fantastic. Our speakers were all awesome. We knew they'd be great, but I think they all over-delivered on our already high expectations. So, we had Jan Murray, we had Jess Lorimer, Mark Askworth, Amy Woods. We actually got Janet, Mark, and Jess onto a panel. After Amy's session. We didn't just shun Amy. we got she'd just come off stage, and we got the previous speakers on to do a little panel as well. Normally panels are can be hit and miss, but these ones worked really, really well, because it wasn't just a case of talking about what the speakers had discussed. It was a case of bringing them on to discuss a broader topic, and the reaction to those and the ratings that we've had for them afterwards
I've been quite surprised actually how well they got rated. So there's always things that you think, I tweak and change that for next time, and there's definitely that with the panels as well, but I was pleased with how well the panels went down. So I think 4.4 out of 5 is they've scored on our survey, which for a panel is panels is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and we gave the audience an opportunity to ask questions and stuff. And then we closed out that day with Andrew and Pete as our keynotes. Very, very high energy, because we wanted to make sure people were really buzzing when they left the room, because we had a real fun social lined up. So in terms of speakers, in terms of that on-stage stuff, it was a really, real great start. So good that there was a little bit kind of thinking, wow, like, we know day 2 is going to be a little bit different, but some of the things we'd done on day 1, we did have that conversation afterwards of, should we have spaced those out? Because that was such a good first day. But actually, I think starting so strong made what followed, like, even better.
Definitely.
So we had a big social that night as well. We really, really wanted to make sure that the social aspect of the event was given a lot of attention, because as we talked about in the marketing and the build-up of the event, that yes, the speakers are great, yes, the speakers deliver, yes, we're awesome, all that sort of stuff, but the real secret sauce to what was going to make this event useful for people was the fact that they could be in a room with almost 200 people who are cut from the same cloth, who have stories, experience, lessons that they picked up along the way. Everyone has that common thread. And we knew that's where so much of the value from this event would come from. So we wanted to foster that, because if we made it all about us or all about the speakers, and we didn't pay attention to the social side and in making sure that we had stuff in place to help people connect and get to know each other and get talking and get comfortable with each other, we knew that they wouldn't get quite as much out of it, especially because on the second day in the afternoon, we did group masterminds. So that was almost the culmination of all the connecting, all the socializing. We wanted to make sure that by the time those group masterminds happened, people already were at ease with each other.
Yeah.
And they'd maybe already started some conversations, and maybe some of the stuff that they talked about with other attendees had given them ideas about what they want to discuss in their sessions. So while we did have some more great stuff on day 2 in terms of speakers, a fantastic panel with Scott Devine and Jared Falk. Diana Tower did a great session on community management and dealing with problem members. And we had another fantastic panel and some quick win talks. Really, day 2, the star attraction before we got to the closing keynote for the whole event, where Chris Ducker took us out in style. The big piece was the masterminds. So we'd done a lot to make sure that the social element was taken care of before then. So we talked, obviously, we did the welcome mixer. Part of the welcome mixer, we had our essentially networking bingo, which I called Retango. And I still,
seriously, how happy this makes my...
It's just such a good pun. It's not a good pun. It's so bad it's good. Retango was it became a running joke for the event of basically how excited I was about this retain goal thing, like far more than I should have been. But I like the fact that people seem to get in on the joke about how, yeah, I was obsessed with this retain goal thing. So it was just networking bingo, just something that gave people a reason to talk to each other, because they had to find people in the room who met different criteria and then get them to sign a square on the retain goal card. It's a simple thing. We picked it up from social media marketing world, and there were some people really got into it.
Yeah, I was quite impressed the first night at the welcome mixer, because again, it's never going to be everybody's cup of tea, but you hope at least some people will get behind it. But the amount of people that were going round at the welcome mixer kind of just...
We thought people would maybe fill it in just over the space of the 3 days, but we had people coming to us like 10 minutes after they got into the mixer, and they were almost done.
Yeah.
And we had a little prize draw and all that sort of stuff to incentivize them. So again, that was done with the aim of the social, like making those social connections, having the networking or the early registration mixer. Again, having it, even the timing of that, having it end at 8 p.m., which is around the time that actually people who've been at that might kind of say to the folks who've been talking to, hey, should we go? Do you have dinner plans? Should we go grab dinner? Like, we wanted to foster that kind of stuff. We made the breaks longer than they usually are at most events. So the coffee breaks, at most events, 15 minutes. For us, we doubled it. We made it 30 minutes because I'd seen that at CMA Live, which was an event I used to run in Scotland. One year they decided to make their breaks twice as long, and just the networking side and the camaraderie that came from the fact that you had some breathing room to talk to people just made it so much better. So that also gave us a lot of padding, so that anytime we creeped over in the schedule, we were able to very quickly get back on track.
Although we were very close to time.
There were maybe, I think there were 2 occasions where we ran over, one of which was me, because I had a quick win talk that was supposed to be followed by an announcement that we knew would take 5 or 10 minutes. And as I'm doing my quick win talk and I'm checking the clock and I'm thinking, wow, I'm so efficient. I'm going to end this talk bang on lunchtime. And then about 2 minutes from the end, remembered, oh hell, I've got another 10 minutes of talk to do after this. But yeah, having the longer breaks meant we could pull it back. We also made sure people were very well fed. So we had a great buffet, so many compliments on the food. We made sure there were lots of seating areas around.
There was snacks.
There was snacks, there was coffee, there were cookies, there were pastries. Like, we wanted people to just be well taken care of, so that in these breaks, because it happens, they weren't stood there moaning at each other about, is there really nothing to eat? Oh, is that all there is for lunch? Because that is what will happen at events. And I know, because I've had those conversations and I've heard those conversations. So we want to eliminate that, make sure we really took care of people, so that actually the stuff they were talking about was better. It was more conducive to actually forming connections, not just griping about, I can't believe for the money we pay for this ticket, we're not getting lunch.
Yeah, and I think for us as well, or for me, the creating a good experience for the attendees and having it as this all-encompassing, it wasn't just an event, it was an experience where you're taken care of. We wanted to take care of our speakers, but we wanted to take care of our attendees as well, and making it so that they had as little as possible to have to think about or arrange was a big part of that. So as we said, we did lunch, we made sure there was plenty of snacks. Even at the evening social, we had food there that was all paid for and things like that. So people didn't have to think about anything.
Yeah.
And that worked really well for just helping create that experience, making attendees feel taken care of. And meaning they didn't have to worry, or they weren't thinking about, where are we going to find for lunch, and things like that.
Because it's just the worst. And it becomes the focal point of your event when you don't take care of those little details. You don't take care of your attendees' needs. Like, we've been to events, they don't have drinks, coffee, or anything during the break. You're given 1 hour to go wander out into an area you might not be familiar with and find somewhere for lunch, and then make it back in time for things to start. And that becomes the thing people talk about.
It's quite stressful.
It is, like, planning it out. But yeah, that becomes the talking point. Like, there will be people who after your event will have 30, 45 minute long talks about the fact that there was nowhere for lunch. And it happened. So we wanted to make sure that the social side was taken care of, that our attendees' needs were met. And in line with that thinking, we weren't originally going to have like a party or anything like that. We thought, okay, we'll have the opening networking mixer, the opening early registration for a couple of hours. And at the end of day one, maybe we'll get the bar open. So in the foyer area of the event space, there was a private bar. So we originally thought maybe we'll have that open for a couple of hours while people mill around, and then they can go off and do their own thing. And then on the last night, we'll do the same thing. But just, again, that drive to want to really foster the social connections, to make sure people are having fun, and to make sure it was a memorable experience, we threw that out. We invested a bit more money into putting on a proper party at the end of day one for these guys. We chose a venue called Lane 7, which is basically like a college student's dream kind of party spot, or it's my ideal place to go. There was like pool tables, ping pong, beer pong, bowling lanes, there was karaoke room, arcade machines, pinball machines. There was a drinks token, so everyone got a few free drinks. There was a load of food brought out. It was basically just like, it was fun.
Yeah, and it was one of those things, again, where you never know how people are going to respond to that, whether first of all, again, how many will show up and whether they'll actually get involved in the activities. And again, we turned up about 10 minutes after it started. It started at 7. Yeah, 7. We got there about 10 minutes later, and everybody was there was people already bowling, there was people already playing pool, everybody was just already chatting at the bar and getting involved in the activities. So again, that was really great to see that just actually all my fears about there being awkwardness and people not connecting,
they connected,
were unfounded.
Yeah, exactly what we wanted to happen happened. And, we obviously, again, we left early-ish, so I think we left about 10 p.m., which was like an hour after we planned to leave, but we had to be sensible. We didn't drink much. We left early enough to get some rest and all that for the next day. But we were seeing stuff on social where some of our speakers and attendees, they were just having a awesome time in the karaoke room right through until closing, and they were getting
got kicked out.
They were getting kicked out of the venue because they didn't want to leave when it closed down. So that's always a sign of a good night, and definitely I think again, feedback we had from that bore out. So this is really all in the name of just elevating that experience, making it memorable, and making sure that those connections were in place as we came into day 2, where we were going to have the masterminding sessions.
And just quickly, another little thing we actually did as well, because we knew we had attendees coming from all over the world. This was the first time, maybe the only time, a lot of them would be coming to Newcastle. Mm-hmm. We also paid for some walking tours as well. So people that wanted, and I think about a third half of the attendees
About half
came.
Of the attendees.
We arranged a walking tour to take you from the event venue to the social venue.
Yeah.
So that you could actually see the sights of Newcastle on your way and kind of do some tourism as well. And that went down really well.
It went down really well. And that was just thinking of how can we make sure that as much, like, attendees have to think about as little as possible. We knew that like the venue for the party was about 5 minutes taxi or Uber away, or about 20 to 25 minute walk. So we thought, you know what, if some people are going to walk, let's make it interesting for them. We hired the walking tour companies, and especially for our overseas visitors, they got a taste of the city. And a lot of people had never been to Newcastle before. We had so many people come up and compliment me on how nice the city was, as though I had something to do with it. I took credit for it, of course. Yeah, it's been in my family for a while.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to go on the tour because it was an hour-long tour, and I've lived in Newcastle for 6 years now and barely seen any of it. So I was quite curious about like going on the tour as well, but I couldn't, unfortunately.
So again, catering to the different demographics, I think, within our audience, because as I said, the party at Lane 7 was a bit more of a mic kind of party. It was and Callie, but
it was my suggestion.
It was your suggestion, but playing pool and table tennis and bowling and all that sort of stuff. It's not going to be for absolutely everyone, and we had a wide age range within our audience and stuff like that. So again, those walking tours just made sure that there was something for everyone, I think. And I think the fact that so many people told us after the event how much value they got out of the masterminds, and just the noise, the buzz, the energy in the room when those masterminds were going on, I think showed that the extra effort we put into the social element paid off.
Yeah,
it wasn't just about getting people to masterminds, but we knew that if people were awkward and stilted, then those masterminds would suck.
Yeah. It's always going to be difficult with masterminds, making sure that everybody gets the best experience. So we wanted to do as much as possible to, as Mike said, have people already have those connections, so they were going into the mastermind feeling comfortable to talk about their business and things like that, and knowing some people rather than sitting down at a table just as strangers. And originally we'd thought to ourselves, well, we'll mill around, we'll kind of dot around tables and spend a few minutes at each. But actually, as soon as the mastermind started, everybody was off. They didn't need us interfering. No. And actually it was better for us to just stand back and let people do their thing.
Yeah, definitely. So that's sort of the attention to the social side, the attention to the attendees' needs was a massive priority for us. We also kind of went out of our way to try and implement just some little special surprises, special moments. Again, we talked about how we wanted, like, the stage, we wanted it to be oh wow, going to take a photo of that. With our speakers, we wanted their gift to be, again, that, oh wow, that's what a cool surprise. And we wanted those kind of things for our attendees as well, both to make the experience more memorable, but also to make it something that they talked about and that they spread the word about and that they remembered and told other people about, for months and years beyond this event happening. So the first of those, I think, was on day one, and it's a silly little thing, but in the afternoon break with day one, we'd got like ice cream carts, like the old vintage ice cream carts, to actually
fresh, locally made ice cream,
like real high quality, awesome ice cream. We got them to come into the foyer so that when everyone broke for the afternoon and they went outside, like, there's ice cream. Like, who doesn't like ice cream? Yeah. Well, actually, we know who doesn't like ice cream. People who are lactose intolerant. So we got them, like, it was a sorbet or something.
Yeah.
Like, it was just cool. Like, when we asked them that question, it was like, who wants ice cream? I was like, hell yeah, we want ice cream.
Yeah, that went over even better than I had expected.
Yeah, but it was worrying because that was a day one treat. We didn't have ice cream the next day.
Yeah, I was worried by the end of day one that we'd kind of we'd set the bar a bit too high for day two.
Because day two, we brought in kind of a sweetie cart. So I don't know if people in America have what we call pick and mix.
Yeah, they do.
Do they have pick and mix? Which is basically you just go into a huge sweet store with a bag and you just go around all the different tubs of different sweets and put them in the bag. It's I associate it as a very British thing. I love pick and mix. Everyone loves pick and mix. So we got, again, those kind of old school sweetie carts to come in during that afternoon break while the mastermind was going on.
We had kind of a mini break in the mastermind with the sweetie cart.
And then just to give people a little more of a sugar kick to get them through the last couple of hours. So again, I mean, that went down really, really well. But yeah, after the ice cream, we did worry of, oh wow, are they going to like the pick and mix as much as the ice cream? Because they went bonkers for that ice cream.
Yeah, and it was delicious.
With good reason, it was delicious, but they went nuts for it. In fact, because we were so busy and running around over the 2 days, our team were very conscious of making sure that anything like food, like they plated up, or they would get the kitchen to plate up food for us, so we didn't have to worry about that. And with the ice cream, they'd actually got a tub of ice cream made up for me, just for me.
I was going to say, just for you. I feel a bit hard done by that.
Yeah, they didn't. They weren't bothered about you, but they got a tub of ice cream made up for me, and they had it put in the freezer in the hotel kitchen. So the next afternoon on day two, while everyone's masterminding, I got my ice cream from the freezer and wandered into the room where everyone was masterminding to enjoy it at the back of the room. Second I opened that door, the eyes darted around the room. Everyone was staring at this ice cream. And I heard a few people saying, oh, they've got ice cream again. And I was like, oh no, we don't. I had to hide the ice cream and scurry off to the back. But no, people loved the sweetie cart. Again, it's such a, like, that it cost next to nothing compared to everything else with the event. But it gives such a good talking point, something different, something unique, something a lot of people won't experience at many events. And it was such a simple thing, but it was, again, just these little extra touches, I think, put the event over the top.
Yeah, and a little thing I want to mention here as well is that actually it wasn't just for our attendees. Our AV team enjoyed it. Our event team enjoyed it. The Hilton staff enjoyed it. So like after all the attendees had some, like, and everybody was back in the room, the Hilton event staff and things like that were coming down and having some. So actually for me, like, being able to take care of the people that were taking care of the event for us was also important, because if they're happy...
Exactly, that's the thing. If they're happy and excited and they're caught up in the experience of it, then that makes everything better. Although, it was funny with the AV team, when I wandered in with my, my spare ice cream the next day, and I was sitting up near the AV desk because I was having to call out when it was time to switch over the sessions with the mastermind group, and they were like, "Oh, is there more ice cream? Is there ice cream out there?" And I was like, "Sorry guys, no. This is just mine. This is a special one put aside." And then they were kind of like, "You're going to want some good sound, good lighting later on, aren't you, for the keynote?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." I was like, "You're going to have to cough up that ice cream." We could sabotage this whole event. They really got into it.
I think they enjoyed the sweets, though.
They seemed to really enjoy the whole event. They did, and as well, even just at the end, and on the topic of taking care of people who take care of you, when we ended the whole event after Chris Ducker did our keynote, which was a great keynote, when we ended the whole event, we gave shout outs, we gave big thank yous to all the different teams who'd helped us out. Of course, to our speakers, we got them up on stage for a speaker photo, but we shouted out the AV team. We named the company, huge shout out for R&B Group for the AV. Give them a big round of applause. Same with the event management team. Same with the Hilton staff. Same with our photographers, who were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Tyneside photography services were incredible. Like, the quality of those pictures is astounding.
And how quickly they were putting them up.
They were putting them up into like an online gallery within minutes of them being taken. They blew me away, those guys. And we shouted all them out because, of course, we did, because they were incredible. And actually, the AV guys were like, that's literally the first time it's ever happened to us. Like, they were so appreciative of that, but it was well deserved because everyone who helped us out, like, totally delivered. So again, looking after the people who are looking after you, looking after the speakers because of what they're bringing to your event. So important you remember to do that.
Yeah, and we definitely didn't have to do any of these things like a lot of events don't, and it does cost a lot more money. But I think, as we said in the last podcast episode, we weren't doing this to make money.
No.
So it was easy for us to invest in making it a good experience.
Yeah, anytime we started getting in the green in terms of profit, we looked at what we could do with that to reinvest into making the event even better. And that was a big part of the reason why we did the big social the way that we did. So, again, this is why, as we talked about in the last episode, knowing what the purpose of your event actually is important, and accounting for it. But even if you're not like us, where it was purely about putting on an awesome event, an awesome experience, that was a statement that would give you a lot of marketing assets and content assets. And, for us, it actually plays a part in retention, because 75% of people at the event were our members. And this is an opportunity to re-engage with them and really get that connection that is going to be conducive to helping them stick around in our membership. Even if you're not approaching things that way, you still need to pay attention to the social. You still need to pay attention to the little special things. So ice cream, the sweeties, even little things like we had little branded packets of mints that's mints, M-I-N-T-S, and not mince as in minced beef. I realise my accent is terrible. That we put around on everyone's table after lunch because no one wants garlicky breath or anything like that. We had a couple of little announcements as well that, again,
just
little ones that, again, were those real special moments. So the end of day one, after Andrew and Pete closed down day one for us, we announced something that we were really, really excited about. And that was the release of a new book that we'd been working on in secret. We hadn't told anybody we were doing it. And the way that we did it was actually, it was inspired. I mean, it wasn't inspired. It was taken directly from something Chris Ducker did at his very first Youpreneur Summit event, where at the end of the first day, he surprised everyone by revealing that he'd completed a new book, No one knew that he'd been working on, and that he had a free copy for everyone, and they did an impromptu signing session. That always stood out to us as a memorable moment from that event, and we wanted to emulate it. So we spoke to Chris, we got his blessing, and we wrote the book. And the way that we announced it was we told that story of what Chris did and how much we wanted to steal it, and that when we spoke to Chris, he gave us our blessing. But he said, the flaw in the plan is you would actually need to go and write a book. So that's what we did. So kind of in saying that line and throwing up the picture on the screen of the book and Callie pulling the book out of a bag, like the reaction for that was awesome. We got a little standing ovation from it. And then we went out and did a little signing. And again, similar to like what Callie was saying when we did the opening networking mixer where we didn't know if anyone would show up for that. We didn't want to overly commit to saying, okay, we're going to be sitting outside at a table waiting to sign your books because you're just going to look like an idiot if no one wants their book signed.
Yeah, so I was very much of the, okay, so let's give everybody a free copy of the book, but yeah, is anybody really going to want us to sign it?
Yeah, so we got our team to set up a table and to have some Sharpies ready for us, but we'd said to our attendees, obviously if you go outside, our team will all give you a free copy, and if you want to, we're going to go out and hang out, and if you want to come over and say hi or maybe get your book signed, you can do that. So we kept it casual with the option of being able to jump down on a table if people did want it.
To save face, essentially.
Yeah, it was a safe bet because you don't know what you're letting yourself in for. But then actually, after everyone went out and we were still kind of hanging around in the main room because we had a few things to take care of, we had to get our mics off and stuff like that. Like one of our team rushed in and said, yeah, you guys are going to need to get out there because there's a huge queue of people who want their book signed. That was such a great moment, not just the reveal, but also the fact that the signing meant that we got to have a little bit of FaceTime with so many people we otherwise wouldn't have had a chance to chat to.
Yeah, and I loved so much, in fact, nearly everything about the event, if not everything, but my absolute favourite thing of everything was being able to talk to people, get to meet people and stuff, and doing the book signing gave us the perfect opportunity to do that because people could come up, they could talk to us, we got to find out things that about members, for example, that we didn't previously know, and so that was awesome. It was wonderful to actually get that. I think it took us about an hour and a half in the end, but it was just amazing to be able to get that time with people.
Being able to, like at an event where there's so many people in the room, being able to have some one-on-one time with so many of those people, like was unexpected. Yeah. We had to make peace before the event with the fact that there would be people who came who wanted to speak to us or say hi and they just wouldn't get the chance and maybe they'd go away a little disappointed. They go back and say, it was a great event. Oh, it would have been really nice to have had a chance to just say hi to Mike and Callie or something like that. So that was real special for us, again, in the name of having those kind of special moments. Another great special moment. Now, if you're an Academy member, you'll know every month we do the Academy show, which is our little roundup show of any news, success stories and wins from the Academy. And on that show, every month, we crown a member of the month, someone who has contributed to the Academy in a real big way. And yeah, we name one person every month for that. And we realized as we were seeing the ticket sales coming in, quite a lot of those people who had previously been crowned member of the month were at the event. It was about half.
Yeah, about half of them.
Yeah, about half of the people, and we've been doing this for like nearly 2 years, they were at the event. And we also, knowing that, decided not to crown the previous month's member of the month, but instead to delay it until retain. So we got to bring all of our members of the month up on stage and show them a bit of love and get a big round of applause for them, show our appreciation, give them a little gift to just cause it was nice. But then we also got to announce our member of the month and get her up on stage as well. We didn't warn these guys, we didn't tell them. So it was a surprise for them. And again, it was just a real special moment for us to be able to do that. So that was awesome. That was day one as well. So when we say day one, kind of set the bar high, we had all these awesome speakers. We had the big energetic closing keynote from Anna and Pete, our opening keynote, which is actually like the highest rated of all the sessions we've done. So obviously people really enjoyed that. We had the ice cream, we had the social, we had the members of the month, we had the surprise book launch.
We packed a lot in.
We packed a lot in, we set the bar high. So while we were absolutely buzzing at the end of that first day, there was still that little bit of concern that, okay, is tomorrow going to be a little bit of a...
Yeah, I was worried. Like, I loved it, and it was an awesome day, but I did have that little bit of, oh dear, are we gonna be able to live up to this tomorrow?
Yeah, exactly. So, fortunately, I think we did in many ways. It was a different that second day because of the fact so much of it was about the masterminding. But it almost made it didn't feel like it was a step down in terms of what we delivered on in any way, shape, or form. The sessions were great. We had another little surprise, which I'm not going to reveal too much about because this is one that was for the people in the room. But we announced something new that we've been working on, something that we knew that people would be salivating over when they found out about it. We knew this would get a big reaction. That's why we kept it for day 2. But I don't think we were prepared for just how crazy people would go when we announced this.
No, it was a little bit weird, and because I sort of left you to announce this on your own.
It's something that I've been working on myself predominantly, and it's something we hadn't, even going back 6 months, we hadn't decided fully whether it was something we were going to pursue, but actually we knew we had to bring this out. And you'll find out more about this in the coming months. If you were at the event, obviously you know what we were talking about. But the way in which we kind of built to it and the way in which we announced it, it was very much Steve Jobs at the Apple events always used to go, at the end of the event, it would be one more thing. And then he'd drop a huge bombshell. It was literally designed and scripted to be like that. And man, we got the biggest reaction, 2 of the biggest reactions. One, when we told people, when we revealed the one more thing, we've done this, got a big reaction, but then also when there was another point as well, which got another big reaction for that when we revealed a particular detail about it. And that was before lunch on day 2. Yeah. So that sent people away really buzzing. Lots of people tweeting and stuff on social. And that was a real special moment as well.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I was at the back of the room watching kind of thing and definitely didn't expect quite as big a reaction as that.
There were like screams. There were screams and, it was, wow, that was like, I knew this would be big, but wasn't quite expecting that. I feel bad for not being able to talk in specifics about it, but you will find out about it a little way down the road, but it's something real new and exciting that we're going to be bringing to our Academy members, and it's something that it's something the membership space needs. It's something the membership space needs, and I think that was validated. We always talk about idea validation. I think that was some solid idea validation. So, and then again, we had the sweetie cart in the afternoon. And that was it. I'm trying to think of. And then when we closed things down, we kind of we didn't do an official party or anything, but we put some money behind the bar in the Hilton and invited everybody to head over there for a kind of closing drink and to toast a successful event. Although we put more money behind the bar than we thought we'd need to. But about like 15 minutes after we sent everyone away, the bar staff came and said, okay, so that money's all gone. Do you want still more? Got people left. We've still got people waiting for a drink. But that was a real cool way of closing the event, just being able to actually hang out with people in the hotel bar. Yeah, and for me, that was a huge testament to what we'd actually been able to pull off as well, because we've been to a lot of events, which is where we got a lot of inspiration from this from. But we know that usually these kind of things where it's kind of an unofficial closing drinks or whatever, maybe 25%, 30% of people actually attend. So that's, we'd factored in maybe 50% would stick around. Because we knew some people had to rush off. It had been a long 2 days. We'd done a lot with these people. So this was more a case of if you're hanging around, then, there's a little area called enough for us in the main bar. We put some money behind the bar for everyone to grab themselves a drink, and we'll come out and toast this with you. It was very much a casual. Yeah, it was low key. Yeah, it was very, very low key, but almost everyone stayed. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Almost everybody stayed, and I do take that as a huge testament of what we were able to achieve. And it was it was real nice for us to then be able to just go through and hang out with everyone without needing to worry about, okay, we've got to protect the vocal cords, or we've got to do this, or we've got to do that, we've got to think about this thing that's going on tomorrow. We could just relax and soak in the feedback and the praise, because everyone was kind of falling over themselves to tell us how much they enjoyed the event and all that sort of stuff. So we thought we'd hang around, we'd have a drink with everyone for a couple of hours, and then we'd probably want to just go back to our hotel room, order some room service, and then just crash. All the adrenaline would just hit a wall, and we'd just be exhausted. But actually, no, we were still buzzing. We wanted to keep it going. We ended up doing dinner with some speakers and some attendees, and then hanging out in the bar until, later on that night. It was, I think it was almost kind of like a symptomatic of the fact that once we got things going, everything from there on was just an enjoyable ride over the 2 days. So it didn't feel like we were really, really straining ourselves to put so much into this. And then the second that it was done, we were just like, oh, thank the Lord that's over. It was actually, once we got that big hurdle of the keynote out the way, and once all these little special moments and all this stuff was happening, we were just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, and I think if I'm totally honest, a big thing for me that just really buoyed me up and filled me with energy was just all the great feedback people were saying, like the amount of people coming up to me and, giving me a hug and saying how much they were enjoying the event, how useful it was and all of that. Like, to me, that was just incredible. That just made my heart feel so full, and I was just so energized from that.
Yeah, and I think, from being in a place earlier in that week where we just wanted to get it over and done with, to then being in a place where we kind of didn't want it to be ending, is probably one of the most dramatic turnarounds that we've had in all of our years of doing business, and we've been doing this a long time. So yeah, that was amazing. It was so incredible. And then obviously, as things quietened down, we were still in town for another day or so. We got to look back and check out the photos and the social messages. Some attendees have brought us gifts and really nice cards and stuff like that. So we got to enjoy that, and we kind of got to enjoy it. We got to bask in it. We bumped into a few members over the next day or two in town. One in particular, Carol. I love Carol, but I think after the 5th or 6th time that we bumped into her, she was getting a little fed up, because there's only so many times you can say goodbye and say, oh, well, thanks for coming, here's a hug. But then we just kept bumping into her like 5 or 6 times. And then, it was over. Everyone kind of made their way home, and on the Saturday, after having a nice dinner with friends the night before, we packed up the car, we went back home, and it was that strange thing of getting back to our house that for the previous couple of months it had been a whole bunch of boxes and signs and stuff like that were been clogging up our hallway and Callie's office and our gaming room, because we have a room just for video gaming, because we are nerds. Like, they were all gone, and there was kind of the remnants of the build up, the preparation for the event. And so it was really weird. It was almost that going back to reality, as though the event had been kind of like an out-of-body experience kind of thing.
Yeah. I was a little sad. I was sad it was all over.
It was a little sad, but, again, just being able to read the nice messages, the nice cards and stuff like that. A few of our speakers or attendees had sent us copious amounts of alcohol, which, we got to enjoy a tipple or two, having to be restrained over the course of the event. So it was real nice. And it was, even since then, like we've obviously sent out a feedback survey to attendees. We want to get that out as close to the event as we could do. So again, like the feedback, you always brace yourself for some negative stuff or constructive criticism, but it's almost all been just wall-to-wall, beyond what we'd expect, positive feedback. Like, I don't think there's been a single black mark in any of the feedback that we've had, which is nuts, because, like, surely there should be. It's our first event, and we were burned out, and we were run ragged, and we didn't know what we were doing, and yet we somehow pulled it off. So, lessons learned, I think. We obviously stuff that we covered with this in terms of the on the day. Pay attention to the social. Pay attention to the little details. Take care of your members' needs, because if you don't, That's what a lot of people will latch onto, and that will become the subject of conversation. The fact that you leave them with their own devices to buy their own lunch, the fact that the coffee is terrible, that there's no snacks, there's no water on the tables, that sort of stuff becomes the focal point of the conversation. Take care of that stuff. Think about ways in which you can make the experience memorable. The little surprises, the special little touches, the stuff that doesn't happen every day or doesn't happen at every event. Definitely take care of your speakers, especially if you're asking a lot of them, which just asking someone to come and speak, they're bringing a lot to the table, they're doing a lot of work. But if you're asking them to go above and beyond, if you want them to feel excited about being on your stage, you have to take care of them.
Yeah, and I was so proud of all of our speakers and how they delivered for us and showed up for us.
Yeah, we had even Janet Murray. Janet Murray speaks at a lot of events. She's spoken at a lot here. She runs her own events. She's spoken at events in the US. And she said to us 3 or 4 times, and has said it publicly as well on social media, that she's never felt as taken care of as a speaker before. And that absolutely meant the world to us, because that is what we were going for, because we don't want them sitting there resentful or thinking about anything other than the event. We want them to be all in. So take care of your speakers. Hire good people. The fact we had an amazing AV team, the fact we had an event management team who was so on it, the venue, the photographers were incredible, the videographers, everyone just brought it. But if you hire those people, let them do their job, get out their way. That first day for me, the amount of times I found myself wandering in the foyer outside while everyone was in the main room at the talks, wringing my hands, kind of looking for the event team, saying, what should I be doing? Feels like I'm meant to be doing something. And they had to kind of really shake it into me of, no, we've got this.
Yeah, and even our own team, like Sam and Laura from our team. So we've met Sam before a couple of times. Laura, even though we've worked with her in one degree or another for 7 years, we've never actually met her before.
Yeah, and she lives like 30 minutes away.
Yeah, and so it was awesome to actually see them in person. Yeah, and actually the fact that, I was really worried that, this was going to be really boring for them. They'd just be standing around and doing stuff. But they both loved it. Like, I think they got on really well as a team anyway, but just they were already like asking, when are we doing this again? If you guys don't plan it, we're going to. We want to do this again.
Yeah, definitely. So that brings us to the question, are we going to do it again? If you asked us at the start of that week, or if you'd asked us at pretty much any point in the 2 or 3 months before the event, the answer would have been a diplomatic, oh, we'll wait and see. But actually, the real answer would have been no, not a chance. We're never doing this. That changed.
Yeah, definitely. I think we both came away from that, even just the first day, oh yeah, we want to do this
We're
again.
going to be doing this again. So we will be. Nothing's booked in. We want, the thing we didn't want to do this yearly for a variety of reasons. One, it's not a topic where there's so much change or things move at such a pace that there'd be enough to talk about next year, right? Because it's so specialist that we just didn't want to be repeating ourselves or run out with subjects, run out with speakers and this, that and the other. But also for us, this whole process has been a year. It's been a year in the making. And so if we wanted to do this again same time next year, we would need to start that process again literally the day after this event finished. And we didn't want to do that because, as we've said a few times, this event isn't a focal point of our business. It's not a revenue generating element of our business. It's more of a nice to have. And it was awesome. It was a great experience, but it's definitely more of a nice to have. And because of that, we need to make sure it doesn't draw focus away from the Academy. Because while the last year, the Academy keeps going from strength to strength, keeps growing, it's probably the most, the smoothest period with the Academy in terms of there being no major overhauls or this, that, and the other. But there's definitely been times where we've kind of felt, not that we've taken the eye off the ball, but that we haven't been able to do a few new things or try some new tactics or invest a bit of extra time in the Academy. We haven't been able to do that because of how much has been going on with planning the event. So I think we both agreed that if we do it again, it's more likely to be every 2 years.
Yeah, definitely. I think that works well for us. It works well for attendees as well, because we do have so many coming from abroad as well.
Yeah.
And asking them to do that every year, that gets expensive.
It does. And also, we've got to give them time to miss it. Because, I think it was Anissa Holmes, who, I've known for a while. I'm good friends with Anissa. She's been on the podcast. She's a member. She's very successful with her membership. She runs live events herself. And I think it was her who said that if you do it every 2 years, then by the time the anniversary of the event comes round after 1 year, then people are thinking, oh, wow, this time last year, I was at Retain. And then if you start selling tickets, then they're going to be more likely to think, oh, wow, I'm definitely getting my ticket for next year. You've got to give them a little bit of time to miss you. And also, for us, for the topic, for keeping things fresh, then, I think every 2 years works. Yeah.
Although I do like the idea of doing some smaller kind of, even just more organised member meetups in the interim, just to keep that connection, because I do love actually getting to...
That's our favourite part.
Considering I'm an introvert, I absolutely love being able to spend time with members and non-members as well, and actually getting to know people.
Because again, they're our people, and that's, again, another big lesson learned is keep in mind that if you're organising an event, these are your people. And that means that they're more forgiving, more supportive, more loving, more driven to want to see you do well and to contribute positively towards your event than if you were working with a cold audience. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. I think in terms of if we were doing things again with hindsight, having that 100% crystallized decision on what came next, it would be great to know that in advance, because then we even just being able to announce it and have it in the program and stuff like that, it would be nice rather than being like evasive when people ask us that question.
So many people were asking, can we buy a ticket for next year?
And we didn't, while we'd had those little conversations between ourselves, like, okay, we're both kind of agreed this has been great. We could do this again, couldn't we? But it would probably, we were having the little conversations about it would probably be every 2 years or whatever. We were also very, very mindful that we were caught up in the buzz with the current event. So we didn't want to commit to anything. And then a week later, when that buzz has subsided, be regretful, but stuck because we'd already announced it. So with hindsight, and this is something that would only be possible with hindsight, having that knowledge that, yes, we would want to do this again would be useful and would be good.
Yeah, and I think as well, knowing that the next time we do it, it's not going to be as much of a stressful burnout process in the run-up as well. Knowing what we do now and having a lot of things already in place means that next time around it'll be so much easier and smoother to run, so we won't get into that burnout place.
Yeah. Because a lot of that burnout comes from not knowing, like what you don't know and worrying about, okay, well, I put together this running order, but is that right? Is that enough? Will the AV team know what I mean when I say this? Having all that experience and all those doubts quashed and having the first year as a template is going to be definitely something which helps with the stress and the anxiety. And a lot of things that we've designed, they're done now. They can be reused. They can just be adapted. There's some stuff that we've, some signage stuff that it's there. Like we had a big 6 foot by 10 foot logo of Retain as part of the staging. That's built. That's now in a workshop or warehouse, with our AV team ready to just pull out next time we do it. So there's a lot of reusable element. Plus we'll have photos. We'll have, comments and feedback from our attendees. We'll have videos of the event that will make the sales and marketing side of things a little more enjoyable. Because as we said on the last episode, selling event tickets bored the hell out of us.
Yeah, and also some of that burnout wasn't just from the event itself, it was all the other things we were trying to do, like writing the book for the event, like creating the other secret project to announce at the event.
And we also
rebranded.
We went through a rebrand. We went through a rebrand this year. So again, I don't think it's being overly optimistic to think that if we did this all over again, the actual workload, the stress levels and all that sort of stuff would be minimal in comparison.
Yeah, and we would probably speak less as well, or rather speak more, but in shorter sessions. So I think we would do more of the quick wins that we did were overwhelmingly popular.
Yeah,
people loved them.
Yeah, the highest rated segment of all the things we've done, because obviously we sent out a survey to our audience, and about 3/4 of them have filled it in. And those quick win sessions are the top rated sessions of the whole thing.
And our keynote.
And our keynote as well. And I mean, all our speakers got incredible ratings as well. So it was important that we opened our first event, that we were the first speakers on the first day to kick this thing off. But having done that already, there's less of an impetus on us to do that next time. And so I'd be more inclined to have more of those shorter sessions with us, so that we still have a large presence in over the day without the added stress and workload for us of doing that opening keynote, because our opening keynote was about the state of the membership industry. And in 2 years, like, there's one event that we go to where they open every year with the opening keynote from the founder of the event, where he does a state of the industry. And what happens, we've been to that event, we've seen it 4 or 5 times. What happens is either nothing's changed or he's stretching. He kind of like, he'll focus the whole thing on this newfangled platform that by the time next year comes around has disappeared. So we don't want to get into that. We don't want to get into a going through the motions situation where every year we do the opening State of the Nation address, and then we have to sit down and like really scramble for ideas of what we can put in there just to fill an hour.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I would really actually change is making it a little bit easier to allow members to find people in similar niches.
Yeah, that would be
so that's
good.
the only thing I would really change.
Yeah, it'll be a challenge to do. I think for the masterminds, it'll be, in some ways, it's great to have people from different markets and industries, but there are people who would prefer to just be on a table with other people with music memberships and share ideas there. So that's definitely, I'd love to find a real good way of facilitating those connections based on commonalities. And we've been throwing around a few ideas, so that's something to think about. But that's the great thing about where we are and having that experience now behind us, is that it now becomes about fine tuning.
Yeah.
We know what worked. We know, I wouldn't say there was anything that didn't work, but we definitely know where there's areas that we'd like to improve based on us seeing them play out, and also based on some attendee feedback. So yeah, I would definitely do that. The only other thing I would do is I'd start ticket sales later.
Yeah, either start them later or do them in other bursts.
Yeah, I'll do them in bursts. Yeah, because having ticket sales open for a year, we had various points throughout the year where the price went up. So we had pre-sale, super early bird, and actually we discovered through all that people don't care as much about the price as you might think. We had our biggest surges of ticket sales were right at the beginning and right at the end. And there were a couple of those price bumps that they got no reaction. So I'd probably have a shorter window of time. And the reason it was so long was because we wanted to stagger these price increases. I'd have a shorter window of time, and that would probably help us stop getting really, really bored with selling the tickets. But that's about it. You know, it's funny. We decided, we knew we were doing this debrief episode. This was always going to be something that was done within the week or two after finishing the event, but we had no idea whether we'd be here talking about a colossal disaster or whether we'd be doing what we're doing now, talking about something which completely blew away our even more optimistic and hopeful expectations. And we're glad that it's the latter. It's probably not as dramatic or as interesting in hearing two people say, you know what, we did our very first event and we hit it out of the park. Everyone loved everything. All the feedback was amazing. There were no big problems and all that. But hopefully in what we're talking about, we've been able to communicate, you know, how that came about, how we were able to pull that off. And if you're someone who is thinking of running your own live events, or if you're already doing them, but you know, you're looking for ideas to fine tune them or what have you, hopefully this has given you some food for thought. And if nothing else, hopefully it's just been an entertaining and an interesting little look behind the scenes at our very, very first live conference. Is there anything else to say?
Just that I love this even more than I could possibly have expected.
Yeah.
And all the feedback from everybody has been just amazing and just incredible to hear. It has made all the stress worth it.
Definitely.
But I do now feel like the pressure's on for the next one.
It is.
You know, we need to top that now.
Yeah, and it's weird because I'm now at that point where this feels like this is a point, okay, now we can stop talking about Retain for a bit. Because there was that kind of thing where everyone's going home and you're kind of like, fewer people are tweeting about it, fewer people are mentioning it. Like, it's realizing that actually people's lives, it's done. People's lives are going on. And so we don't want to be, you know, sitting around months down the line saying, hey, remember that time at Retain. So this is a nice little full stop on that. Of course, if you're an Academy member or if you are at Retain, you will have the recordings of the sessions to come. If you weren't able to make it to a Retain and you're not an Academy member, then that's a very good reason to become an Academy member. We're going to be adding all the recordings from all of our speakers, panels, and all that sort of stuff in the Academy over the next, I think, December, January.
Yeah, December, January it'll be.
Yeah, there might be one or two sneak in there a little earlier. So there's still some good Retain goodness to come. I'm actually looking forward to seeing some of those sessions back because there were few that we didn't get. Not both of us got to see all the sessions because we scheduled in little times where we could get a little break and we could rest up a little bit. The benefits of having two of you. But other than that, I think we're done. It was an amazing event. So grateful to each and every person who came. We had people from around the world who made that long trip. I mean, it meant so much to us to be able to actually speak to so many people. If we didn't get the opportunity, I'm pretty sure you spoke to literally every person.
I really tried to.
Yeah.
There might have been a few who avoided me, in which case, you know, fair play.
Yeah, definitely. So that was real special for us. And just know that even if we only got a chance to speak to you for 30 seconds, it still was hugely meaningful for us. So we want to thank everyone who came, everyone who helped us make it what it was. We're not trying to claim that this was all our doing. We had amazing support from the team at Beacon House, the team at R&B Group, the team at Tyneside Photographic Services, at the Hilton, with Sam and Laura from our team, Claire, our fantastic designer for the amazing program, our sponsors, MemberPress, Simplero, Buddy Boss, and Freedom WP. Those guys are awesome. We appreciate all their support. And yeah, anyone who ever liked a post, shared a post, spread the word about Retain. I think that's everyone.
Yeah.
That is everyone.
I think that's everyone.
We've thanked everyone.
Yeah, and we're going to put some pictures in the show notes, are we?
Yeah, if you check out the show notes. So if you check out last week's show notes, themembershipguys.com/220, we got a few little pics from the behind the scenes and the build-up that you may have seen on social, but we put them on the show notes for you as well. Check out this week's show notes, themembershipguys.com/221, and we'll have a few of our favourite snaps from the event itself as well. All right, so that is it for this week. I know this has been a long one, but hopefully it's been worth your while in hanging out with us today. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Regular service resumes next week, where we'll be back with another dose of proven practical tips on growing your membership. But until then, thanks again for listening to the show. We're out of here.
Thanks, everybody.
If you enjoyed this week's episode of the Membership Guys podcast, we invite you to check out membershipacademy.com. The Membership Academy is the essential resource for anyone at any stage of starting, growing, and running a membership website. Whether you're still trying to figure out what your idea is going to be, or whether your website is already up and running and you're just looking for ways to grow it and attract new members, then the Membership Academy can help you to get to the next level. With our extensive course library, monthly training, exclusive member-only discounts, perks and tools, and a supportive, active community to help you along the way with feedback, encouragement and advice, the Membership Academy is the perfect place to be for anyone looking to start, manage and grow a successful membership website. Check it out at membershipacademy.com.